All right, welcome to your new G-Wagon. You get to see me until I fire up the screen in the, the background there. So what I like to do when I'm going over the features of a vehicle is just kind of do it like a book, start left to right. So on the door here, it's pretty straightforward. Most people know how to operate power windows. Our mirror adjustments, you get left and right, you adjust it. There is an extra button in the center. That's for the mirror folding. So when the vehicle's running and you want to fold the mirrors in, say you're going on a really narrow street, or if you were waiting for somebody in busy traffic, you can press that and have your mirrors fold in. We'll set it up so that they fold in whenever it's locked. You've got the window lockout if you don't want kids in the back opening the windows. Your vents are four-way adjustable, and you turn it to lock out all airflow. The seat adjustment here, so you've got 3 levels of heating, 3 levels of cooling, lock and unlock, and then this basically is what I'm sitting on. So if I want to move the bottom, I move the bottom part. If I want to move the back, I sort of press that to lean back. This is the headrest, up and down, and then this is a thigh extension. So I press that, the seat will actually grow for people with longer legs, or shrink, if you've got the shorter legs. So once you get that set, then you'd want to move on to the steering columns. The steering column's adjusted with this little joystick here, so you can kind of go up and down, in and out. So you set sort of that, then most people do the mirrors third. And then once you get all 3 of those set, then you'd want to lock that in as kind of your setting. So then you'd press M1, and it just makes a little noise. That means it's saved. So M1, M2, M3 for 3 different driver profiles. So then if somebody gets in and they've changed it, you just press 1 and it'll go back to your profile. The other controls to the left of the steering wheel here, most people don't bother playing around with the lights because auto, it's going to have to come on at night and turn off during the day. There's a dimmer switch for the central gauges, and then this is your fog light switch, so if you want to have a little more illumination at night. You've got a electronic parking brake, which is automatic. So you'll see when the vehicle is put in park, it's going to engage anyway. And as soon as you touch the gas, it'll disengage. But this is a manual override. So if you do need to engage or disengage it manually, you just press that. Above here, you've got a button to turn off the parking sensors. So say the vehicle was parked outside during an ice storm and it was all coated in ice. You wouldn't want the sensors freaking out. You can press that until you get it cleared off. Or sometimes people find going through a drive-through, it beeps a lot when you're getting close to the window, so you can click that so it doesn't, again, beep at you. And then this is your lane keep. So if you want to disable the active lane keep assist, there's a quick control for that. The shifter on a Mercedes, you probably already know, is up here. So it's very simple, just down for drive, up for reverse, park is the little button at the end. A little half press will put you in neutral. So that's that. Because the shifter is the only kind of stock on this side, they combine the wipers and the signals into this stock. So signals pretty straightforward. The wipers are set up so that you've got 2 levels of rain sensing. You can see those little dots there. So that's low level rain sensing. That's a little bit more aggressive rain sensing. And then you just have it on and on, kind of full blast, as aggressive as possible. So most people leave it in one of these 2 rain sensing settings. If you want to just do a single swipe of the wipers, a light press of that button will do a single swipe. And if you firmly press it, that's why they have 2 arrows, that's what sprays fluid on the windshield. And then this little section inside is for the rear window. So that doesn't have rain sensing, it's just on or off. So if I click it up, it's on, and every, it's 30 seconds or so, it'll swipe, and then off. And then if I want to spray the rear, it needs to be in the on position, and then you turn it a little bit past the top and it'll send fluid to the back. So that's kind of how your wipers work. You've got paddle shifters here. So when you're in drive, it'll show you on the central gauges, it'll show you in a sec. It'll say D1 for like first gear, 2, 3. If you pull a paddle, it'll go to M1, M2, M3. So that's manual shift mode. So you have the option of kind of engaging manual shift for a period of time. If the vehicle detects you're not using it, it will revert back to shifting for you. If you press the M with the gear icon here in the center console, that will lock it into manual shift mode, so it will not shift for you. You're kind of taking full control. The controls on the front face of the steering wheel. So you see how the top has a house and a back button and a little controller on either side? That's because the center screen, it's one big giant piece of glass, but it's 2 screens. You might be able to see the little line in the center. So your left hand controls your left screen, what you're seeing through the steering wheel. Your right hand you can use to control the right screen, so you can kind of steer it. So you can do everything hands on the wheel. You don't have to interact with any of the other systems to use the screens. But if I want to change what's on display in front of me, I would either swipe like up and down, left and right on this here. If I press the little house, it brings up different categories of information. So again, I'll show you in a sec once I fire up the electronics. And then the right hand, I can kind of swipe through to whatever I want. If I want to go into something, I press the little square. When I go home, press the house, and then there's a back button. The other controls on the left side are your cruise. So you can see on, off, and then you'd press set to set your speed. This little toggle, it has kind of a catch where you'll see a light press will be 1 kilometer an hour, and if you firmly press it, you'll go past that catch, and that's 10 kilometers an hour. You've got resume and cancel, same thing with pressing the brake pedal, and then this is your active distance. So this is where you would see like how many car lengths am I willing to trail the car in front of me. So if you've got the cruise, say, set to 110, and the person in front of you is going 103, it will trail them at 103 until you move over, and then it would go up to your set speed. And yeah, so that'll prevent you from having to pay that much attention to what the other cars on the road are doing. The other buttons on this side of the steering wheel, this is for your phone. So once your phone's paired, that would answer calls, that would hang up calls, and that also hangs up on the digital assistant, which is accessed with the voice control there. So if I press that, it will bring up on the screen a list of different features, and most electronic things you can speak to the car to do. So you could say, you know, turn on my heated seat, or set the temperature to this temperature, turn on my massage seat. But if you call that up by accident and you want to hang up on the car, that also does that. The star is a favorites section. So within the center screen, there is like a hidden menu kind of favorites, and that's what the star brings up. So I'll show you that again once I bring that up. You've got a volume control for your audio system, and you click it to mute. And you've got another one down here that does the same thing. So a volume roller, you click it to mute. The buttons on the center here, so you've got your 3 locking differentials, so front and rear and center, and you can watch videos on that. Most people don't know how using it, but it sounds like you might. The heating and air conditioning controls, again, pretty straightforward. If you want to see a digital representation, that's what menu does. So clicking menu will bring it up on the screen so you can see like digitally what is going on, you know, with the vents and things. There is a button here. Let me see if I can find it. Where if you turn off the, oh yeah, it's part of the menu. So this rest function. So when you have the vehicle running for a period of time, say 30 minutes or so, when you turn it off, if you press rest, it's going to use residual engine heat to keep the cabin warm for about an additional 30 minutes. So it's like if you were waiting for somebody and you didn't want the vehicle running, you can press that and still have a warm cabin. It's nice for driving movies, or again, if you're waiting for somebody who's shopping or something and you don't want to leave the vehicle running, but you want warmth. The buttons along the bottom are quick jumps to the main menu items in the center screen. So you're going to see when we fire it up, there's a navigation tab, radio, media, telephone, and then that's settings. So this is just a quick way to get from one thing to another. You've got your central analog clock and your 4-way flashers. Down below with the cup holders, there is a little slot here for the key. What that is for is if your key battery was ever completely dead, so the vehicle wasn't willing to start, if you put the key in there, it will start. So the key doesn't even need to have a battery to be able to start the vehicle as long as it's in that slot. The other controls here in the center, so we've got your dynamic toggle is your drive modes. So there's going to be like Eco, Sport, Sport Plus, Off-Road. There is an individual one where you can set up your own drive mode. So if you like to have kind of a stiffer steering feel but a looser suspension, you can make your own. I already mentioned the locking manual shift mode. This is if you want to turn off the traction control system. So you press that. The power button will power off the screen. So you can either have the display turned off, or if you hold it down, it actually cycles the power to the screen off. So if there is ever any issue with the screen, that's usually your first kind of line of defense, is restarting it. You've got your parking cameras. This will bring up, and this is also your active park assist. So pressing that button will bring up the system where the vehicle can look for a parking spot for you and park for you. I usually like to show people that in person because it is something that's easier to kind of see someone do than to try and do it yourself the first time, but there are YouTube videos that'll explain that. And then you've got the locker for the low range. So you do have to engage that before you do the locking differentials. So this is kind of like your first line of defense if you're stuck. Now the four-wheel drive system in these is so good that you rarely are using that or these, but you know, if you were in a true off-road scenario, then you know, you might get into those. The other buttons here, so you see how there's a house there and a house there and a back button and a back button and a house and a back button. That's just redundancy. So some people like to do the control of that center screen, hands on the wheel. Some people like to use this little swipe pad to go around and home and back, and some people like to use the wheel. So I'm a wheel guy. I prefer that tactile feel. So I usually turn off this system. You can in the screen just disable that so it becomes just a wrist rest. And I like to navigate the screen with this. I just find it's a bit more precise. If you want to go into something, you can either click down on this or you can click on the circle. And the circle actually also works as a joystick, up and down, left and right. So I just, personal preference thing, that's why they make it, so that you can do it 3 different ways, but I like the wheel. So yeah, that's kind of the buttons. Now let's turn on the electronics and we'll kind of run through what you're going to see while your vehicle's powered up. So one press of the start button will just turn on accessory power, and then a second press, you're going to have sort of the full-fledged system turned on. So your center screen, by default, is going to look like this. This is kind of the classic Mercedes. So if I start swiping, you'll see, you know, that's pretty good, 785 kilometers on a full tank of fuel. You can pick different pieces of information to have in that center. And if I swipe over to the right, see how that right-hand bubble lit up blue? And then I can go through and pick different pieces of information on that right-hand bubble. So you can have navigation, you can have, you know, fuel economy again. You can also change the look. So by pressing the house, it's going to bring up this menu, and I can go over to the far right, I think it is, yeah, where it says designs, and I can pick, I could say sport, and it turns the color to black and orange, or I can go progressive, where it's going to be kind of futuristic center mounted tack. That's the most popular for people with these G-Wagons, but it's up to you. You can use one for a month and then change it up. So that's kind of your center screen. The other items that I scrolled by, those are all other options for displaying in the center. So if I pick radio, it's going to show what station I'm listening to. And then if I wanted to change stations, I'd just swipe. If I pick, say, driver assist, it's going to show the driver assistance graphics. So if there's a car in front of you, it would show them. There's a service tab where you can see sort of like, you know, if how many days till your next service is due, things like that. Most people like a big central mounted speedometer, but you know, again, there's lots of options of what to display in there. And the center screen, so if I press the house, it's going to take me to the main menu. Now, if you don't interact with it for a bit, it'll go into the last thing that you were in. So don't think that there's a ghost in the machine. It's just, that's what it's designed to do. So if I'm in navigation and I go to the home screen and I don't do anything for a bit, it'll take me back into the navigation. So see, we were in the radio, so after just, you know, 20 seconds or so, it pops you back in. But if I go back to the main menu, so the very first item is navigation. So if I want to go into the navigation, I would just click on the wheel or click on the center button or click on there, and you're in your navigation. Then by turning the wheel or pinching to zoom on here, you can zoom right down into, you know, wherever you want to go. There's a sub menu on the right hand side here. So to access that, you need to kind of like swipe over to the right, or in the case of this, that's where that toggle works. And then I can turn and I can go into entering a destination, route options, you know, avoiding toll roads or off-road or whatever. So if I go back out of that menu, radio and media are what you're going to listen to while driving. So radio, of course, is, you know, AM, FM, or Sirius XM. So I can scroll through. You can use the voice assistant to request specific stations. And again, there's a sub menu on the right. So if I click over there, that's where you would save presets. These vehicles have a very high-end audio system. It's the Burmeister. So if you go into sound, this is where you've got access to the equalizer, surround sound, sound focus for the front or the rear. So kind of play with that and get it tuned to the type of music you like to listen to. The next one, phone. So you'd want to go in there to pair your phone. And then this is also where it would show your recent call list. You can set up favorites, so they'll always show up there. So it's pretty easy to connect your device the first time. You can have text messages set up, so it'll read you your text, you can reply. The next tab is the Me Connect. So we'll get that set up on your phone, but that's the system that allows you to remote start, remote lock and unlock, kind of geolocation of the vehicle. There's a whole bunch of different functions you can do with that. And you can also, within here, this is where you would bring up the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So it is a wired connection system, which is more robust. You just plug your phone into the side on the right with the screen, and then it'll give you the option. The first time you plug in, it'll say, do you want to start automatically CarPlay or Android Auto? As long as you say yes, every time you plug your phone in, it'll just pop up. But if you get back to the Mercedes system and you want to get back into Apple CarPlay, that's where you would do it, in that Connect tab. And then the last two, so vehicle and system, is where you kind of customize like different safety systems and basically all the vehicle systems. So if I go into vehicle, this is where it's more the fun stuff, like your massages, your ambient light, your energizing comfort, you know, some of the safety stuff, like I said, the assistance. So if I, for example, go into the seats and I want to activate a driver's seat massage, I pick, you know, which one do I want? I just click on it, and now I'm getting a hot, relaxing shoulder massage. The dynamic seat, so this is the drive dynamic, where the side bolsters will push you in the opposite direction of, you know, when you're going around a corner. So there's two different levels of how strong that effect is. You can adjust the lumbar in here, so you can kind of move the bladder of air up and down, left and right. And you can also adjust the side bolsters. So for different sized drivers, you can, you know, have the seats hug you more all the time. So it's a very adjustable seating system. The other one on the main menu, so system, this is where you would go if you wanted to, like say you were taking the vehicle down to the States and you want your gauges to be in miles per hour. That would be like a system thing. So this is where you would go and change like language, units, date and time, all those kind of things. You can set up a Bluetooth hotspot where other people in the G-Wagon can use your data while inside. You can change the input sensitivity of this system or turn it off, like I said, that I tend to do. You can also change the display so that it'll always have like a little, you can always have your nav on the left, even if you're in the radio, so that you've got some kind of customizations there. Yeah, and then at the very bottom, there's a reset where you can wipe all your data out, you know, when you're done with the vehicle. There is automatic software updates. They're done by satellite. So every now and then you would see on the screen a software update's available. Do you want to install it now? You just say yes, and it takes usually, you know, 5 or 10 minutes. Now, you see the little star for favorites. I mentioned that earlier, the star. You can access that by kind of scrolling down. So if I push that wheel down, I go right down to my favorites, and they set up some things that they think people are going to want as their favorites. Like, you know, a lot of people like to have the massages at their fingertips. A lot of people like to go in and change with the ambient light colors. So if I click on that, you know, I can pick from 64 different colors here, or I can go multicolor, and I've got a bunch of different color combos where that ambient light is going to appear sort of on the floor, coming from the dash, coming from the doors. So all those different systems. Might as well turn on kind of the fun stuff, the welcome, the climate change, the multicolor. But yeah, this is where you kind of go in and play with that system. But to get back to, I'll crank up the color to start. Getting back to the favorites though. So if I want access to that favorites, if I'm driving and my hand's on the wheel, theoretically, I click down and it'll take me there. You can, if you're finding, like, say I never use fuel consumption, I don't care. If I click down, I have the option of either deleting that or moving it. So I could delete that from the favorites tab. So you can really curate this and make it your own. And on the far right, there's the option of adding new ones. So you can add, like, you know, somebody you call frequently, a place you go frequently, any system that you use a lot. If you take the time to like make this your own, it could be the top 5 things you always do when you're in the G-Wagon, and then it's always there at your fingertips. So instead of hunting through a menu to make a change or to bring something up you always use, it's right there. So that's the idea. A lot of people, I find, they sleep on that favorites, but take the time to set it up. It is very, very useful. That's essentially the screen. So we've kind of reached the end of that. The overhead controls, you've got home link. So there's 3 different integrated garage doors. You just hold the button, that's going to start flashing orange. I hold my garage door opener and it'll start flashing green when it learns the code. If your garage uses rolling codes, you do have to press the button within the garage. There's like a learn button on the actual unit, and it'll do the same thing. It'll flash green when it learns that rolling code system. But yeah, there's 3 different ones. Just click it again to stop it from searching. Beyond that, above, we've got the control for the sunroof. So just open, closed. You can vent it by pushing it upward. And it is, because this is a military style vehicle, it's a manual blind. One other thing with it being military style, do not be shy with the doors. So many people with these, they are weak on the doors and they never latch. You can hammer it, and that's the way you're supposed to treat the vehicle. So you really want to come onto the doors to close them. The other controls up here, so you've got reading lights for driver and front passenger. That turns on all the lights or just the rear. This will disable them coming on when you get in the vehicle. The Me button will call roadside assistance. So you've got roadside for the full term of your warranty. You click that, a concierge will come on and say, hey, how can I help you? If it's a roadside emergency, you would just explain that to them. SOS will call emergency services. So in the event of a collision, the vehicle will do that automatically if the airbags deploy. But if you, say you were sitting in the vehicle and something was not right and you needed to call the police, that's a quick way to do it. So it's under a protective button so you don't hit it by accident, but you click that, click the red button, the police are on their way. Other than that, I guess if you have any questions, then YouTube's your friend, but I'm always available. So just shoot me a message and I'm happy to answer any questions.